Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my Daily Dose with Tim. Today is season 3, episode 30. Oh my goodness, 30 episodes in. Today, we're going to continue on the same topic of self-managed versus hiring property management. And today is part 3 of this topic now. And the funny thing is, the episode yesterday, episode 29, I got so many messages, and some of you are challenging me on how I was demonstrating the principles. And I'm just going to really take today's episode and really walk you through it and using my own property. I mean, the one that's been the subject of discussion so far that really inspired this whole thing this week. And so really, at the end of the day, I hope that you will see that you are actually only proving the points even better for yourself, simply because of the fact that what I wanted to share with you is that this is really where the line is drawn again between the amateurs and the professional and the educated investor, is that in order for us to continue to build and scale, we need to learn how to work with property management companies. And going back to the entire S&P process, you need to recognize the fact that not all of your property is, nor should them be, in the exact same market. And so in order for you to really build that system out, you need to learn how to work with property management companies and property managers. So first thing first, I'm going to come back here. So today is episode 30 now, and it's really part 3 as well. And we're going to focus on, once again, looking at what is your time worth. And so yesterday, I sort of mixed matched a little bit. I leveraged the example that we've been going through, Jeffrey's example, when we were discussing raising funds as well as distressed properties and Burr. We are going to let that go for a little bit, okay? Let that go for a little bit. I really want to bring your attention to here first. And probably at this point, if you've been watching all the Daily Dose episodes, you know, when I actually pre-write something, it's serious now, okay? Because none of these are really scripted. That's the thing. And as you can see, all these episodes have been grown very organically, and thanks to you, because I love the interactions that I get to have with everybody. Okay. So I've had to look back over the last 3 years, or almost 3 years, because they really moved in around August 2020. So during that short period of time where lockdown was not so serious right here in Edmonton. And so I'm just going to walk you through the actual time spent in about 3 years of self-managing this property. So on a monthly basis, usually takes about 10 minutes. Okay? So what that really means is 10 minutes to cash the check, 10 minutes to just do whatever it actually took to really collect the payments. And so sometimes it's maybe they're late or late by a day or two. Send them a text, send them an email, that sort of thing. And that sort of eats into the admin time also. However, these are longer emails because we do the walkthroughs. Okay, so as by we in this particular case, I mean me. I would do the walkthroughs every 6 months in this case, and just to really make sure that they are taking care of the property. And again, I've learned that they really didn't take care of the property all that well. And so again, this is where certain best practices will kick in a little bit. I'm going to share something with you all in a little bit too at the end of this episode. So I want to start to add all of this up. Okay, so I only did 34 months because I mentioned that they did move in August 2020, and technically they moved out at the beginning of April due to the water damage. And so I only added up to 34 months, and so that means about 340 minutes. Okay, so that basically, if you divide it by 60 minutes per hour, that's approximately 6 hours right there. And then longer emails every time I do a walkthrough, and I go, okay, well, there are certain deficiencies and defects that are happening, and as a result, I need to let them know, attach the pictures that I've actually taken. So over the last 34 months, did that about 5 times. So that's about 100 minutes. I'm going to round it up. Okay. So about 100 minutes, that's about 2 hours right there. And then, as I mentioned, it's about half an hour from where I live. So really round trip each time. is about 1 hour. So I'm approximating it at 12 trips right there. So that's 12 hours if you add it up. Repairs and maintenance. And what that means is I got to coordinate the calls for tradespeople to come in and get things done. So over the last 3 years, I've had to call handyman, I've had to call furnace companies, I've had to call plumbers, and given the most recent incident, I've had to call the insurance company. And so all that added up, 30 minutes, about 4 times. So I'm just going to say that's 2 hours right there. And then special situation, okay? That's basically the math that I did with everybody yesterday or in the previous episode, depending on when you joined my Daily Dose with Tim at this point. And so all these things in terms of how much time I've had to spend, don't worry about the $4.95 per month at this point, okay? All these things that I've had to do added up to about 13 hours. So far, special situation, I'm just going to count it once, 13 hours in total, okay? And so at this point, I really just want to quickly add it all up. So 6 plus 2 is 8 plus 12 is 20 plus another 2 is 22 plus 13 hours so far on dealing with this situation, okay? So that's 35 hours. Now, the actual rent for this property was $19.50, and that's the latest rent. I'm just going to take the higher end. Why? Because 3 years ago, the rent was actually lower. Okay, 3 years ago when we first started, the rent was lower. However, like an educated investor, like a professional investor, we have learned to increase the rent. Okay, remember, if you actually are running numbers, if you want to go back to season 2 and watch the income properties episodes first, because you cannot wait anymore. Once again, I'm going to share that in the comments section in a little bit. However, remember, it's all about revenue minus expenses that equals the net operating income. Now, under the expenses column, almost every single line item increases on an annual basis. And this is also why a lot of the times the amateurs will say, you know what, no, I don't want to spook them. I don't want them to move away so that, you know, and now I have to do a turnover. Now I have to clean up the property. It's going to cost me a lot of money. I don't want the stress of finding somebody else again. And also, I just don't want the hassle. Okay. That again, what does that sound like? Buy, rent, and pray. And we don't buy, rent, and pray when we're educated, okay? We want to make sure that our property is performing and we're constantly improving the performance of it. So at the very, very least, you got to learn to increase your rent over time. And so with that said, I still want to take the highest end right now because that was the latest rent amount that they were paying. So if I have been paying 10% on property management, I'm just going to do a happy medium right now because that's pretty much the ongoing average. We call it the fat part of the bell curve, right? If you've done any sort of statistics course, that's the big part of it. The majority of the property management companies will quote you around 10%. And so 10%, that basically works out to be $195. And then 195 times 34 months, okay, equals about $66.30. And in the beginning, as I mentioned, $500 for acquisition or for screening. And at this point, I really want to say that this was actually, I think I may have mentioned it, this person was actually not a property management company yet, okay? And what we always do in our network is that we aim to support each other. And this particular person was looking to actually start his own screening agency. And so we decided that we would support him and give him some initial businesses. And no hard feelings at this point because the screening process, as we know now, was not complete. However, the point is, $500 was paid upfront. So in total, it was $7,130. So $7,130 combining screening plus property management that I would have paid for had I brought on a property management company. So 7,130 divided by, what did we say here? What did we say here? Let's do the math again quickly because I forgot. So 6 plus 2, 8, 20, 22, 35 hours, okay? 35 hours over 3 years. I know some of you are going 35 hours in 3 years. That's really easy. I can do that. Remember, that's not what the point is. 7130 is how much you would have had to pay if you did everything yourself. And that's the thing. This is not even apples to apples. Imagine how much time you would have had to spend to actually screen the tenants, show the property, okay? And call references and check up on credits and collect documents, screen through them, and then evaluate all the applicants. Okay, I'm not even counting that right now, but I'm gonna factor that fee into it, okay? Or if you prefer, we don't have to, but I'm just gonna factor that fee into it for now. So 7,130 divided by 35 hours, that means $203 per hour, okay? $203 per hour. And so, again, I want you to really think about all of this. I want you to think about all of this. Is it worth your hassle to go through that? Because let's take a look back at what we were saying is that train investors, we constantly are looking for ways to scale and grow our portfolio and grow our cash flow. And if you actually learn how to operate as a lease option business or execute on the lease option strategy, we always say that on average, a single lease option should be making you $20,000 a year. If it's a 3-year deal, almost apples to apples, that's 60,000. But assuming that you take 50% of that because you need to leverage OPM, at the end of the day, once you actually get good at this, you're making about $833 an hour. You're making about $833 an hour. So would you rather focus on making $833 an hour or saving about $200 an hour? And I'm pretty sure I'm missing quite a few hours here as well, okay? But I really want to demonstrate it and purposely making that hourly rate so high to make a point. Because I understand not every single person that's watching this right now is even making $100 an hour from your regular job. However, remember, it is not literally just the hourly rate. It is also the headaches and also the opportunity cost. Okay, it's also the opportunity cost. I think we've discussed this at the beginning of the season as well. Opportunity cost in this particular case, how would you actually calculate it? Okay, I'm gonna write it down here. So $203 is what I would have paid otherwise. Okay, is what I would have paid otherwise. Now, between 203 versus 833, by saving $203, you are letting go of $833 per hour. Okay, so what that means is your opportunity cost is about $630 per hour. So what that means is you are literally, by choosing to do it this way, you are losing, in this case, in this example, losing $630 an hour. I'm hoping that I'm driving the point home now, okay? And so I know a lot of you might be going, yeah, you know what? This is probably the best case scenario if you actually have a much more, a much tighter process when it comes to property management. You're probably spending even more time on self-management, okay? And once again, I'm also leaving out bookkeeping, staying organized, okay? And so I'm being very, very generous here to drive purposely the hourly rate up so that it makes your jaw drop a little bit and makes you question what the heck we're talking about. However, the main point that I really want to drive home with everybody is this. This is what you are losing when you are choosing to self-manage. And let me ask you this. This is just one property, one door, one tenant. Can you start to imagine if you are scaling and you start to compound the effect of that number? And this is why when people are not able to learn how to work with property management companies, to me, as a real estate investor, this should probably be one of the most important skills. This is probably one of the most important skills to learn once you've actually acquired hard strategies and soft skills at the same time. Okay. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I want to quickly share a best practice. Okay. Because of everything that I'm going through with this property so far, I am really remembering now recalling some of the best experiences that I've had working with a property management company remotely. Remember, again, I invest coast to coast in Canada, in the US, as well as the UK. I'm not able to physically go to all of these places, okay? And this is why also some of you actually asked me, this particular property that Jeffrey had, where was this? Where was this? Well, Jeffrey right now lives in Ontario, and this particular property is actually in a different province. Okay, so if he actually ended up having to travel there, okay, it is not going to be, the opportunity cost is going to be a lot higher. It's going to be much higher. And so again, I want to share a quick best practice with you, because I remember working with this particular property management company, and this is actually over in the UK. So those Brits seem to know what they're doing, maybe because they've got a longer history in the world too. So anyways, the point is, I remember that they actually they hire specific people to do what they call tenant onboarding. And so what that means is, for me, it actually cost a little bit more because they actually gave me the option. So they will still charge you for tenant acquisition. They will still charge you all the basic percentages, as we mentioned in the previous episodes. However, they will ask you and give you the option and say, you know what, we got some in-house specialists who knows the properties really well. And more importantly, they know our procedures and system really well in terms of how they can actually onboard the tenants into the best of their ability. And so what that means is, it's kind of like, if you remember going to school before, we tend to have orientation sessions during the first day or the first week. And so whenever the tenants are moving in, before the tenants are actually moving in, so how they used to do this is, from the time the tenants are accepted, okay, they pay their damage deposit. They may have even paid their first month's rent already, and maybe even first and last month's rent, depending on which province, which city, which state, which country you're in, depends on the laws. In this particular case, they pay their damage deposit and they pay their first month rent. And then before the move-in date, right in between, they schedule an orientation. And that orientation typically takes about an hour. And so somebody from the property management company, the onboarding specialist, will basically have a new renter's manual ready, to hand over to the tenants. So I remember witnessing this when I was there visiting once, and that's when I was like, oh my God, this is brilliant. We got to do this for our multi-units over there in the UK. So what happens is, they will actually, for the first 20 minutes, they will go into the unit that either they're renting or a vacant unit in that same building. Remember, vacancies are good. You don't want 100% occupancy at all times. Okay, and if that troubles you, let me know. I'll cover that topic in the coming episodes as well. However, going back to here, they will either meet the brand new tenants in the unit that they're going to be renting, or a vacant unit. And so the first 10-20 minutes they will spend with the renters to go over the renter's manual. So within the manual typically is how to maintain things, where everything is. And then after that, they do a complete walkthrough of the building, and really just letting them know about where everything is, where the laundry is, where the parking is, some of the parking rules and the etiquettes, and maybe if there's curfews, out of respect for the other tenants within the same building. They do all of that so that it is covered up front. And then they also let them know that, you know what, the first 3 months, we are going to be popping in for a walkthrough. And if you pass every single thing on the checklist, then 3 months after, it's going to turn into a quarterly visit. And if you stay for more than a year and every single walkthrough is actually they're passing with flying colors, then it turns into 6 months or 12 months walkthrough, which means really at this point, the tenants are not bothered and they will inform you when they have an issue that they need to tell you about. And it's all in the renter's manual in terms of how they can escalate an issue or a repair and maintenance challenge that they need looked after by the landlords or by us in this particular case. And so I just thought that that was really brilliant because they did charge by the hour, and really it was what, 35 pounds for the extra hour. That works out to be about $60-$70 Canadian. And because of that, tenant damages and random questions and random communications from the tenants when something arises gets minimized. And so what that means is you're not going to be incurring a lot of different a la carte billing from the property management company as a result. And over time, remember, revenue minus expenses. And so when you can control the expenses really well, that means that your net operating income naturally rises. Okay. So I just wanted kind of thought of that. I mean, I wanted to share that with you, and hopefully that is something that you might learn to implement. So on that note, I just want to say thank you again for joining me at today's episode, and I hope that you found some value out of this. And I want to remind everyone that tomorrow, even though it's Saturday, remember, every Saturday we actually have a session as well. And tomorrow is our monthly coffee chat, and we call it Real Estate Investing and Money Coffee Chat. It happens at 11 a.m. Eastern time. That means 9 o'clock Mountain time and 8 a.m. Pacific time. And that's why it's a coffee chat. We know it's a Saturday. It's very casual. Come in, and we will usually have a panel to answer questions, and it's meant to be really interactive as well. And so everybody else can share. Some of these sessions have turned into what I would call a true mastermind, because even the audience who have experiences and stories to share, they do tend to chime in as well. So come and join us. I will post the link in the comment section for everybody so that we can see you there tomorrow. So on that note, I know this is the last episode of this week now. I want to give everybody a heads up. Starting next week, I will be moving my Daily Dose with Tim into the Talented Investors group on Facebook. So if you are wondering where that group is, I will also post a link in the comment section so that you can join us there. And that's a group for educated and professional investors who are supporting each other and who are adding value onto each other's journey. So with that said, have a great rest of the day. Enjoy your weekend. I hope to see you tomorrow, and I'll see you in the Talented Investors group. And I will be back next week with my Daily Dose with Tim, season 3. Live well, everybody.